Ratna Mindrala Kam Niryatayami. Sangye Chedan Sogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Jinso Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupar Sho Sangye Chodan Tsogi Chonam La Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsu Chi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki Drola Pinchre Sangye Drupar Sho.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. With the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I obtain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections. May I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namo Yalhaye Ke Da Ludan Jinke Drubundandami Kenamdan Drowakunge Dranam Chitsampa Tamche Ketu Dagi Chöten.
Good morning. Sometimes I've imagined how it would be to try to be present in the present moment if we didn't have a body, if the body wasn't there. When we start imagining our future, daydream with our projections, or when we think about our past or daydream in general, what allows us to be present? What brings us back here now? It's our body. Our body, in this sense, has a great importance. What allows us to be more present, to feel this moment, daydream less. And it's not for nothing that there's also this anecdote of the life of during the life of Buddha, when he was asked, "What do you and your disciples actually do?" He said, "Well, what we do, we eat, we sit, and we walk." And at this point, though, this man said, "Oh, but we all sit, we all walk, and we eat. The difference is that when we sit, we're seated. When we eat, we're eating. And when we walk, we're walking." That's what actually brings this fact that even the simplest of actions, the physical actions, bring us to this present moment.
devo dire una cosa per quelli che parlano italiano. Quelli che dovrebbero essere più grati per il fatto che ci sia la traduzione sono quelli che parlano italiano, non quelli che parlano inglese.
So we're just organizing now this translation for Jada, who's come to actually translate into Chinese. And so those who should be most grateful are those who speak Italian, because without the translation, I would have to speak in at least two different languages. So in this normal world,
Lavoro professionale di traduzione simultanea c'è la regola che non si può tradurre per più di 45 minuti.
actually in the outside here, there's a rule that a translator shouldn't work for more than 45 minutes. Here, instead, we go for hours and hours. Just a minute, I have to help her.
Aspettiamo solo un secondino per assicurare che riusciamo che tutto sia in funzione. Anche perché, vabbè no, niente. No, questo sistema di traduzione simultanea l'abbiamo preso quando era venuto qua Nyima Tulku, che doveva fatto 2 mesi di insegnamenti senza fermarsi giorno e notte, e chi a sua volta parlava in tibetano e io ho fatto la traduzione dal tibetano all'inglese, all'italiano, no? E poi c'era la traduzione dall'italiano all'inglese e così via. E quando è arrivato questo momento, io ho visto che c'era questo insegnamento e ho detto, se non abbiamo un sistema di traduzione simultanea sarà caotico perché nessuno capirà niente. Solo che questi sistemi hanno dei costi che sono elevatissimi. Ed è stato quella volta che eravamo a Borobudur e lui stava
Okay.
ha detto che offro io. Quindi lei che ha offerto noi che scriviamo sempre oggi che lei ha vinto.
So it was actually years ago, we were in Borobudur. We had so many friends in different languages, and I was thinking that it would be absolutely chaotic if we didn't have simultaneous translation. And so our friend Shirley, who is here now, she offered this system. So let's make space for her who now she needs a translation. So it's our body that allows us to be present in this present moment. Our body allows us to be present in this present moment.
Essere presenti nel momento
Being present in the present moment brings so many benefits.
anche se noi abbiamo
Also, because we have this amazing ability to imagine the future, look at the future, and look at the past. I mean, this is a quality that human beings have. Not many other animals have this ability like we do. And not only do we have this amazing ability to look at the past and project and imagine the future, but when we think about something for our being on a psychophysical level, it's like we're living that experience. We're having that experience. Is that clear? So our physical or mental reactions that come with that imagination. When we are not able to be present in the present moment and we enter into this process of imagining the future here and there, we have a very important mechanism that the survival mechanism. Today I didn't want to talk about this, but here we are. So our stress mechanism actually is for survival. How does it work? I'm going to say what I've understood. We have a very evolved system that sees a threat. And when our system recognizes a threat, what does it do? It activates the system to fight against it or run away. In other words, it activates all of our strengths and to face that threat. The cortisol goes up, our heart rate goes up. We are single. We are single pointed, focused on getting out of that situation. So when we see a danger, the necessary time for our system to activate itself and and to disactivate itself is about 90 seconds. But what happens as soon as our system activates, there's a part of our system that continuously um, checks whether there's still danger or not. Because if the danger still exists, then the system needs to stay activated. It's not that I'm there and I'm sunbathing and then the tiger comes, the hungry tiger comes, and for 90 seconds I'm aware, and then he goes away and I relax. No, I see a danger, and as long as the danger is there, I need to be ready to face that danger. So let's remember, when we see that there is a danger, our system activates and everything else becomes secondary, and our priority is facing that danger for our own survival. There's a part of us that's constantly seeing whether that danger is present or not. And once it's not there, something else activates to calm our system down. So we have these two parts. What happens is when we have a physical danger, threat, I mean, how often do you have material, external, physical dangers in your daily life? How many times a day do you face physical danger? How about how many times a week? It, maybe in your whole lifetime, your memory, there are very few times, because we live in a context where our survival is assured, relatively assured. We're fixated on security in so many ways that, but we don't really live um, dangers of survival. But somehow we live in a very, we live in a much safer environment than 100 years ago. But our stress system, do we activate it regularly or not? Yes, but what are the threats um, in doing so? Or what are the problems in doing so? Our real threats, our mental threats. I imagine that this could happen. Oh, and if this happens, what? And what will I do? And if that, when that person sees that, and they'll say this, and this can happen like this, that can happen like that. We imagine a danger, and our system reacts in the same way as if it were facing the tiger, facing the danger itself. But what happens? Every 90 seconds, theoretically, we could fin that reaction. But when that danger, that threat is mental, what happens? That after that first 90-second phase, but is that danger still there? The answer is yes. If it's mental, and someone can stay trapped in that mechanism for a long, long time, even years, generating what we call chronic stress, where the danger that one needs to face doesn't have to do with anything physical, but it's mental. And it's fundamental for us to get out of these cycles, because many of us, unfortunately, we're in these dynamics. We relive our past. We're worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, how this is going to go, how that's going to go, what's going to happen if that happens. And we live in front of many dangers that are quite banal, but our system is still reacting. Oh, I'm not handsome enough, I'm not beautiful enough, and if they tell me this, if they tell me that, if that doesn't work, if this is like that and this is like that, we have an infinite number of things, and then we become experts in imagining possible dangers. I don't know if that's clear. But what does that generate within? Tension. And our cortisol levels go up. Stress is fundamental. Without stress, we'd all be dead long time ago, because it's what allows us to react in front of a danger. But when instead that danger is not there, but we're creating it as if it were there, and we keep reacting to it, we create chronic stress. So as we said, that stress raises our cortisol levels, which is important in some cases, but when it becomes chronic stress, it creates inflammation. Is one of the first causes of cancer, of tumors, without talking about the problems of anxiety and of insomnia, because we're in constant stress. We're always activated because our threat is constantly present. And it's strange to say, but today, the modern human man, he has fewer threats than the caveman, because they had a tiger. Caveman had a tiger. He had water to find. The fire that risk going out. But we have so many threats, right? Am I right? And one fundamental thing to balance our system is to stop this system where we are seeing a threat. We need to stop this cycle creating these threats. And to stop that, we need to go back to the present moment and see what we have now here. See what is. And Kung Fu Panda, citing Kung Fu Panda, the past is the past. The future doesn't exist. And the present is the only thing that we have, and that's why we call it present, a gift. But we need to learn how to be more present in the present moment, to bring our attention here and now, and say, okay, there are no threats. There's some things, but these are my projections. These are my fears, my imagination. Because when we imagine something, little by little, that enters into the realm of reality when we imagine it. Instead, when we bring our attention to the present moment, then we can actually live what's actually happening. And there are two things that help us along this process: our body, breathing, feeling, allowing ourselves to be here, which is not easy because we're not used to it. Simply because of that, we're just not used to it. It's not easy because we're used to the opposite. But there are many people who are hungry. Once I saw a cartoon, and there was a man with his dog, and it said, "Why is the dog happier than the man?" And it says because so they were looking at beautiful landscape in this present moment, and in the dog was looking at the pretty cloud, and the man instead, in his little cloud of imagination, he was work and family and the problems, etc. He was just not present. Um, it's it's easy to be present in the present moment when you're used to it. So we can do it. It's not that hard. We're just not used to it. When there's a moment to face a situation, we face it. When there's a moment to think about how we need to plan this, that, or the other, we do it. But when it's not the right moment, then we need to wait. And we need to keep training, familiarizing ourselves to have greater control over our mind. And then there's something else. Very often there's this attitude that when we are quite young, we have this idea that our life is to come. And then we get to a certain age, and then we have this feeling that we're too busy to live our lives. Too many things to do. I can't live my life well because I have too many things to do. And then at a certain point, we have this feeling that life has passed us by. No, once I could have. The second thing that helps us to find our present moment is remember our dear friend death. Using the words of Saint Francis, our dear sister death. We're here in this context, in this moment of passing, but also this very moment will never repeat itself. Not on a philosophical level. No, actually, really. And when we talk about time, the measurement of time is not quantity but quality. What is important is not how much time we spend together, but how we spend this time together, how we live this time. A life can be very long or very short, but how is it lived? How it's lived is what's important. A little bit like a vacation. What's worth more? 2 days lived with presence and joy and beautiful intensity, or 2 weeks, a little bit of fighting and tension, little so. What's worth more? So what happens is it's much more important um, um, to consider the quality instead of quantity when we think about one's lifetime, but remembering that we are going to die and that there's nothing wrong with death itself is fundamental. It helps us also giving worth and value to this present moment. The problem isn't dying. The problem is living badly. Because if death were a problem, there would be a solution to it, and there are those who try. The other day, I heard a doctor who made a comment on a very sick person, and and I it felt like I was listening to a mechanic talk about a car that needed to be repaired, as if death were a technical problem that can be resolved, when instead there's no solution to death. Sickness can be cured, resolved, but death, sooner or later, it's our turn. This is not what I wanted to talk about today, but this morning I received news that a dear friend died tonight. Many of you knew. Many of you knew him. Was the Venerable Walpola. He's a monk of the Theravada tradition who lived in Geneva. We knew him together with Lama Ganchen when there were the Buddha's relics that together with Lama Ganchen, these relics made the tour of 13 European countries. And I received this call very early this morning, and they told me that he had left his body. And he had heart problems. It's just a detail. But what came to me was what was important. I mean, it's not his passing, but how he actually lived. This is what really matters. More than sadness, actually a feeling of rejoicing came to me for everything that he was able to live, everything he was able to share and to experience. He really lived his life well. How beautiful. That's not so obvious beyond the time. I mean, the first question that people ask is, oh, well, how old was he? Well, what does that change? He's dead. Because if he had 89, 100 years old, okay. If he had 50, poor guy, so young. But but living to 100, living badly into 100, poor man. But living up to 50 and with a life lived very well, wonderful. So today I'd like to dedicate to Venerable Walpola, because when one leaves his body, enters into a more subtle state that we call the bardo, and this wasn't what I wanted to talk about today either. Don't want to go on too long about it, but the fact is, when someone dies, when a being dies, he leaves his gross body and enters into a more subtle state, and communication comes from mind to mind. And Walpola was someone who had a connection with us, and this connection exists still. So our prayers, our feelings towards him, our dedications are something that can surely reach him. And when a being enters into this so-called bardo, it's very important to connect to virtuous, positive of feelings, and that's why it's really important do to do this and connect with a person at that time, because it's explained that when we have a body like this, it's like for us in our lifetime with our gross body, it's like living in it's like a big ship where it's very hard to change direction. And in the bardo, it's not like being a big ship, but like being a canoe. And so a very small movement can change direction quickly. Bardo is more like a dream. There's a lot of change. So if we can connect with someone after death when they're in the bardo and enter into contact with this being, with virtuous thoughts, prayers, dedications, it's helpful. So I'd like to dedicate especially to Walpola. So we will recite a few mantras dedicated to him, and then we will go back to what we were talking about. But it's connected with the subject of today, with our topic of today, because we want to come back to today, to this present moment, and this present moment will never repeat itself. We don't have time to waste. We can't waste any time. We don't have time for jealousy, envy, na. We're going to die soon. And the problem isn't dying. We need to prepare for that moment. Because when we're faced with death, it's just us with ourselves. We can't hide behind a beautiful face, a good image. We are ourselves, with our deeper habits, with our deep conditionings, with our inertia, our karmic force that we have created in this life and past lives. And so we need to prepare ourselves. I don't want to be, we're accompanied at death with what we ourselves have accumulated during our lifetime. And another question when we're facing death is what do we want to bring with us? for myself personally, I don't want to be reborn lazy, and to assure that before dying, I need to be sure that I'm no longer lazy, that that habit, that conditioning has changed. And we see this with a newborn, for example, already has predispositions for certain things. Ask any mother, any father, they know. And those who have more than one child, it's even more clear. The same parents, when yet the children are so different. So death actually, when it's seen with a little maturity, is very, very helpful. And so we can say that this moment will never repeat itself. And so we need to really look at our priorities. This is what's important. Where do I put my energy? So both our breathing and awareness of our mortality bring us to this present moment. Now, let's make some dedications for Venerable Walpola.
Pardo jikpe changle chaldo so chancho semcho rinpoche ma ke panam ke gyurchi ke pa nyam par me pa yang kongne kontu pelwar sho o mani pe me hong ri o mani pe me hong cham den gyalwa trul hatso kem Pardo jikpe chanle dreldo so kewa kunto yanda lama dan dralme cheke pela longche ching sadan lamge yente rabzo ne dorje change kopa
As we said yesterday, we are made of habits. And uh, as for everything, it's a process of repetition so that we can create that new habit. Habits are created by repeating the actions. This is clear, isn't it? There's also this saying from the Bodhisattva Charavatara by Shantideva that says, there's nothing that is not easy once you're used to it. But to get used to something, what do we have to do? We just need to repeat it. Sometimes people say, "Oh, Lama, I want to develop a concentration. How can I do it?" You develop concentration by concentrating. There are not many other possibilities. And then there are to concentrate. There are many things you can do, but the main point is that we need to train. And as we said yesterday, our breathing has a very important part in our life, and it's also strongly connected to our subtle energies. In Tibetan, we use the term lung. In Sanskrit, they say prana. In, it's chi in Chinese. It's a term that means many things, but this energy is what upholds the life. For example, when we say, what's the difference between a living body and a corpse? If prana is present or not, this prana, this energy that upholds life, Soktin in Tibetan, this wind that upholds life. There are many, many aspects of our life, and our psychophysical existence are directly connected to this energy. There are 5 primary winds and the 5 secondary winds. These winds of prana, we'll talk a little bit more deeply later, but the first step to direct with awareness our energy, it is our breath, is breathing. And to do this, we need to begin with our abdominal breathing. The more we're able to breathe from our abdomen, the more mental calm we'll have. It will also slow down our thought processes and diminish our anxiety. And little by little, we get to this yogic breathing where we inhale also with our abdomen and also our upper chest, from our abdomen to our diaphragm to our thorax and our upper chest that lifts up a little bit. Even our shoulders lift a little bit, just very slightly. And then we exhale in the opposite opposite way, where from the upper chest down to our abdomen. When we can train in this, something that we did today, we put emphasis in the inhale and the exhale. And as we saw yesterday, don't be in a hurry to do advanced practices. Start with your awareness of your own inhale and your own exhale until it becomes a natural flow. And then we can count the breaths. So when we inhale, we begin with a small number, 4. Unless you're in an extremely anxious state, but 4 should be doable for everyone. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's easy. Little by little, we go from 4 to 5 to 6, 7, 8, etc. When we've created a little bit of familiarity with the inhale and the exhale, getting more or less to 8, which is a good number, let's remember that when we inhale, our attention shouldn't be on our nostrils, but at the beginning should actually be on our whole respiratory system, the actual muscles that move our diaphragm, our abdomen, our chest. Feel that movement to allow ourselves to breathe better. Because if you try to breathe slowly, focusing on the nostrils, actually exhaling becomes very difficult. And then you actually can hear the inhale or the exhale. No, we shouldn't be doing like that. Also, in all the teachings that I've received and the texts that I've read in the Vajrayana tradition, and also in the little that I've been able to see in the Vedic traditions and yogic traditions, it's said that one should breathe in a slow, gentle, and silent way. Ideally, it's said that even the hairs in the nostrils should not even quiver, shouldn't move at all. Silence. In my personal experience, that to to go in that direction, if the attention stays on the nostrils, then it becomes more difficult. But if the attention should be, if the attention is on the body, the respiratory system, the belly, the diaphragm, the chest, that inflates, that deflates, that helps a lot. Once we have some familiarity with breathing like this, and we've lengthened the times, then we add these intermediate spaces, because our main objective is not really the inhale or the exhale, but it's actually the space between the inhale and the exhale. These are the most precious moments that we need to take care of. But at the beginning, it's not that easy. So at the beginning, let's try to, at the beginning, we give emphasis on the inhale, and then before the exhale, we create a little bit of space. And once we've created a little bit more a more familiarity, when we can inhale and exhale up to 8 naturally, at that point we can inhale. We go back to inhaling in 4. We hold the air for 4, and we exhale 4. And little by little, we can also lengthen that. So in this case, we can even inhale in 4 and lengthen the holding period longer. So to be more precise, we should inhale and exhale. The inhale in 4, we should hold 8 and exhale in 8. So if I'm inhaling in 5, I'm holding 10 and I'm exhaling 10. And little by little, you go like this. So the holding and the exhale should be the double of the inhale. So if you can inhale 8 and hold 16 and exhale 16. So I begin 4, 4, 4. And then little by little, I do 4, 8, 8. Or 4, you say 4, 8. Then 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 8, 4. Then 4, 8, 8. And then there are many other techniques, for example, for the digestive system, where the inhale is brief, and then you hold like the inhale, and then the exhale is very, very long. Another instead, where the inhale is and the inhale is the middle length, and then the holding is longer. But now in this case, we need to put emphasis. We need to train in breathing more deeply and creating these spaces in between. Is that clear? To do this, we need to train. We need to repeat these exercises. And what I wanted to do briefly, to explain briefly, because it's linked to something we're doing every day. This lung ro gudrup. Lung is prana, is wind. Chi, ki, according to the Japanese We don't have the word chi in English because we don't have the concept. So I want to explain this. We've been doing it every day, but I haven't explained it yet. So lung is the wind, and ro in Tibetan actually means corpse. It means, but it's a term that's used not only for the corpse of a person, but for something that is there but is no longer there. It's, for example, when you drink tea, if you're using a tea bag, you have a tea bag, or even without the bag, if at a certain point you add water, but there's no more essence of the tea. What do you call that tea that has given everything that it could give? It's called the corpse of the tea in Tibetan, for example. Cha rol in Tibetan. It's the corpse of the tea. It's the leftovers of the tea leaves or the bag. So lung ro is the corpse of the wind. These are the tensions, energetic blocks that are the remains, the leftovers of emotions that we generate in our lifetime. For example, if we have a reaction of resentment or anger or anxiety or fear or any other similar feeling, there is a physical component. When that emotion is in, the body still feels something. There is some tension that remains. I remember once someone went to Lama and said, Rinpoche, I have a strong problem in my kidneys. I think they were kidneys. No, it was actually a liver. It doesn't matter so much now. But she had this strong problem. We knew this person well. It was quite serious. We ended up in the hospital. And then Rinpoche asked, do you have a lot of anger? Do you get angry often? I knew the person well, and I've never seen this person angry. And she answered, Rinpoche, the truth is that for 25 years I've been accumulating anger inside, and I don't show it. I have a difficult familial situation. So what happens is when we generate a certain emotion, that also creates a certain energetic component, and that accumulates at a certain point. It just explodes. That container is no longer able to hold it. So we naturally have these remains, these of leftovers of these energetic blocks, the so-called wind corpses that we have accumulated over time in our lifetime, from childhood to from our birth to today. I mean, there are energetic blocks of things that we have accumulated, things that we have not been able to face or overcome, and then there are others that are more superficial, things that happened yesterday, this morning, whatever. And one of the first things to be able to have a clearer mind, we need to free ourselves from these tensions, from these blocks, because interestingly, these energetic blocks, somehow they push us to fall into the same dynamics that created those emotions in the first place. I don't know if that's clear. So if I have a block generated by anger, that accumulated tension pushes me, it influences me to react with anger. And when we meditate, it's important to have a clear mind. And these inner tensions push us to these negative emotions. So it's very important for us to be able to eliminate these tensions, to have a clearer mind so that we can meditate better. Is that clear? And this practice, Lung Rol Gudrup, the 9 actions relative to energetic blocks. We can translate it like this. Normally it's translated as the 9 round breathing exercise. In Sanskrit, there are similar practices in yoga, not into nadi shuddhi. In this nadi are the subtle channels, and shuddhi, like shuddhi is cleaning, is cleaning the channels, and we know this from self-healing, shuddhe soha, and there are many systems to do this, and I saw a few where you can unblock, where you block one nostril then in another, or you can do it without blocking your nostrils, but putting your emphasis on breathing from one side or the other, just with the awareness, etc. Just to say there are many different systems that have the same objective of cleaning our subtle energy channels, and I think they're all quite valid. I don't know them very well, but what we're doing in these days is what I learned within our tradition, and this exercise, you can do it also on many different levels. So our objective is clear. It's to create emotional and mental clarity to meditate well. This is our main objective. When we do this, we have our 2 nostrils and our 2 side channels that are connected to um, different aspects, psychophysical aspects of ourselves. So what we're doing actually, we're trying to clean these blocks. So our left nostril is connected mainly with our with aversion. Instead, the right side is connected mostly to desire. Later, we'll talk more in detail about it. We visualize our central channel. We visualize the 2 side channels. We block one nostril. We inhale from one side, imagining the air in the form of light that enters into one nostril, into a side channel, goes to under the navel, where it stays there. And when we hold, we have all our energy there, and then when we exhale, it pushes on the other side and cleans all the tensions of that other side channel. When we do this, there are different techniques on how to close the nostrils. You can also do it without closing at all, just with the awareness or other techniques. Something that I've already heard that exists as a technique, but I've never received any, I've never seen it written or received any teachings that way. Um, I've seen people actually even teach this way, that you exhale and you inhale and you exhale with strength. I don't want to say that it's wrong, but it's not how I learned it. Surely, in some context, it exists, but it's not the way Lama Tsongkhapa has explained it, and in Hatha Yoga, it's not like this either. So, everything that I've been able to see, I say it's not like this. It should be done very gently. Also, sometimes it sounds like trumpets going on here. But so we in Lama Genshin taught me to exhale in 3 times, and that helps to um, to eliminate all the air. Not like, but it's one exhale with 3 pushes, let's say, to get rid of all of the air in a very gentle, slow way. So with one exhale, you're able to eliminate all the air in 3 times. There was something curious, something interesting. In in the ancient Indian tradition, when you do um, these techniques that exist also in Vajrayana Buddhism, these are techniques to balance the two sides, two nostrils. If you feel that one has more air than the other, then you want to diminish the air in the nostril that has more air. So you you put pressure under your arm. Maybe you've seen in the Indian tradition that I think it's called Yogadanda. It's a kind of it's a kind of crescent moon on a stick, and you put that under your armpit, and it's to balance your breathing. If you want to diminish air in one that has more than the other. So to balance the air in the two nostrils. Instead, what do? We make a Vajra fist, and then we stimulate our meridians of our heart, and then we create that same pressure on the same side of which the nostril that we're going to close. So we're diminishing the air from that side, and then we inhale deeply. When we finish our inhale, we hold the air under our navel and we tighten our lower doors. We hold the air there. We imagine the two side channels that are connected between them. And when we finish inhaling and we hold, and then we go to the other nostril, and if we have did some breathing exercises before, then we can use also the same amount of time for the inhale, the holding, and the exhale, as I explained before. So remember, we do the inhale with abdominal, our diaphragm, and then it's our chest, and then we hold, and then we exhale in the opposite way, and we're exhaling from the opposite nostril. And we imagine, I mean, my feeling when I do this, I've never read this, no one's ever explained it to me, but I feel, for example, as if we're as we're holding the air under the navel, eh, that this tension is growing, this energy like an arrow being pulled, and when we exhale on the other nostril, I'm releasing that arrow, and all of the dirt and this all of this energy blockage is being cleaned. I exhale slowly, but I can imagine all the energy that ascends and takes away all of that negative energy that had been accumulated. You do that 3 times on one side, and then you go to the other side. You do the same side 3 sides, and then you do the other side 3 sides. And then in the middle, you breathe from both nostrils. You bring the energy, the same 3 fingers under your navel, and you imagine that the air fills up the central channel, cleaning the central channel. The energy comes, and when you inhale, all the energy is under the navel. It's collecting and gathering up all the remains of the energy blockages. And as you exhale, it's fully cleaning your central channel. And you can do it 21 times if you want. Normally it's done or 7 times. Usually it's 3 and then 3 and then 3. But I've seen techniques, for example, in the Indian tradition where we use this mudra, which is similar to what we do. Actually, here we use it like this, but if you do it for longer periods, keeping the hand, um, um, if you can keep it like this, you can close with your thumb. That you, I mean, it's just different techniques and different ways of. Um, there are other Tibetan techniques where one just uses one finger to close a nostril. What's important is that you're inhaling from one nostril and exhaling from the other. And in our tradition, I learned like this, where we make a Vajra fist, we stimulate the meridians, and we put pressure under our armpits so that we close one side and give um, less energy to. We create pressure where there's more air. It's just really important to visualize that when we inhale, light is coming and we're gathering up all the tensions and energy blockages. And when we exhale, it's all being freed. As I said before, you can, if at a certain moment, you can do more than 3 times. You can do it 7 times, or even more. This is a very important technique. Ideally, if you do it before meditating, it's very helpful, but it's something that can be done at the beginning of your day without doing anything else. Doesn't have to necessarily be connected to a meditation session. There are other details. Um, so there's the 3 channels related to body, speech, and mind. We're also receiving blessings of body, speech, and mind. We can add a lot of things, but what's most important now is to breathe with awareness, do this exercise gently, correctly. Imagine the light that brings blessing and cleans the nadis, these subtle energy channels. I wanted to briefly explain this to Tay because we're doing this exercise in all sessions. I wanted to at least explain it to those who hadn't yet received information and teachings on it. And let's try also in this exercise to maintain the holding of air between an inhale and an exhale. So when I inhale, for example, after I've exhaled for the 3rd time and I've completely emptied the air, I hold. As I'm holding, I go to the other side and then I inhale. That's an important detail. So as we're doing that, we should respect all those 4 phases of breathing. I inhale, I hold. I exhale, I hold. Okay, are you following? Before doing this, it's possible to visualize clearly our central channel from the outside, as if we're outside looking in. And then there's a very beautiful exercise where we meditate. We'll do it these days. We imagine this central channel from the inside, not from outside, but as if our perspective is from the inside. We go within the central channel, becomes very big, and we look from below above and above below. And this is an exercise that creates more awareness as well. That's all for this morning. Mostly I wanted to remind everyone that the breath brings us to our present moment. We don't have time to lose, to waste. Also, I wish everyone a long, healthy life. But even if we have a long life, the way we will live our life and the way we will age and die depends on what we do today. So, one of the greatest challenges in life is living our life in a healthy way, physically, emotionally, mentally, related to the environment, to relating to others. It's a great challenge. So let's remember that an important part of living is breathing, and it's part of having a healthy physical body and emotional self. So, and and of course, if there's actual real physical danger, then our breath gets very short and fast. But our tendency, we need to train in slowing down, induce our system in the opposite direction. And this, with this abdominal breathing, deep breathing, this is a tool to help us. And someone might say, well, Lama, why are you talking so much about breathing? Why don't we talk about the details of the practice of self-healing or other important philosophical details? I mean, there are just a long list of things we could talk about. And the reason is very simple. If the base isn't solid, then you can't construct anything on top of it because it wouldn't hold it. I remember very well my first longer retreat, about 6 weeks, I was without seeing anyone, etc. And when I finished that, I was in Nepal, I was about 15 years old. My conclusion, among many other things, was we have marvelous tools, incredible techniques, but we are missing concentration if we are not able to be present with what we do. We're wasting, quote unquote, wasting time. So we really need to start where we are and bring our attention to the present. And breathing is one of the greatest tools that we have, and is the basis for the meditations that can be very, very sophisticated, very advanced. This allows us to create this familiarity, create this habit to breathe with awareness, and use this tool also to balance ourselves physically, emotionally, etc. Because very often when we have some kind of imbalance, we look outside. For example, if we're not able to sleep or if we have anxiety, we try to take something outside to help us. Instead, one of the greatest tools that we have, breathing, is something we have within, and if we know how to use it well, we can do amazing things. All right? We're going to stop now for lunch, and then we'll come back at 4 o'clock.
Drove Munsel Tatu Ne Gyurchi Kyawakuntu Yanda Lama Dan Drame Cheki Pela Longche Sadan Lamgi Yunten Rabzo Dorje Changi Kopa Nyurtobe Sho Nimodele Tsendele Nime Kuyan Dele Ninsen takto delekpe kuncho sumki chingi lop kuncho sumki ngodro kuncho sumki trashisho. Tambalame sangye rinpoche, kyobalame tamche rinpoche, trembalame gendure, chiamne kuncho sumla chopa. Buon appetito.
Have a good lunch. Thank you, everyone.